Arteta Derangement syndrome. Does it exist? So the question I want to ask you all today, you haven't got to like Arteta, you don't have to like Arsenal, support Arsenal, but do you think there's an element where people are just willing to blame him for everything? I felt this for a long time. When he celebrates, it's condemned. When others do it, it's amazing and passionate. When he kicks off with a referee, it's disrespectful and bad for the game. When other people do it, they're looking to improve the game and it's accepted. I want to play you this clip from AFTV. I want to talk about it. I want to go through it together. Let me just play it for you to begin with. It's probably easier for me to play it for you to begin with.
This is cold pizza. That is Mikel Arteta's fault.
Yes, because when Mikel Arteta come there, we see what Arsene Wenger done. When Arsene Wenger control 100% of the club. You remember the guy that was working in the canteen that actually leave and write him a letter? You remember that? So you giving Mikel...
He's actually justified it as well.
No. But honest, you giving Mikel Arteta too much control, even to run the canteen, yeah, to tell us that we cannot get...
You're being serious now.
I'm being serious. No, because he's the one who's running the club from top to bottom. Oh, wow. We need to take back control from Mikel Arteta and only make Mikel Arteta responsible for the first team and have a say in the under 21.
And then we get warm pizza. Arteta doesn't run the whole club from top to bottom. He doesn't. This is just an absolute... It's an exaggeration. He has power at the club after 5 years. And I think when you run the first team, when you're the head coach, manager of the first team, you get a say in the transfers. You have a big input into how the club's academy is being run. Again, if you're running the under-21s and the under-18s, you've got a say. You've got to have a say in the academy. But it's all got to marry up. But the idea that Mikel Arteta decides who the sponsors are, the idea that Mikel Arteta decides what... Again, remember, you mentioned the canteen. That's different from the fans being served at the kiosks. The canteen at the training ground and the chefs and the foods in there, there'll be an element of control from the head coach and the manager, but he'll take that from the nutritionists and the doctors around the right foods, the wrong foods, what they should and shouldn't eat. And a head coach should have a say in what his players are eating and drinking. But the idea that Mikel Arteta is serving up or making the football club serve cold pizzas to the fans on a match day, it is the epitome, the height of Arteta derangement syndrome. He doesn't run the canteen. He doesn't run the food kiosks. He doesn't decide what beers they sell and which beers they don't. He doesn't decide whether it's Coca-Cola or Pepsi. Have you noticed now most places they either sell Coca-Cola, commercial places, or Pepsi? It's very rarely both. He doesn't make that decision. He doesn't decide how much salt is put on the chips. He doesn't decide what brand of tomato ketchup or mayonnaise is used. He doesn't organise the stewards. He doesn't liaise with the local police force when arranging match days. He doesn't do any of the logistics work. He does none of the work around travel. He doesn't organise or control any of that. He may have an input if they're going to a game. I want to be back the same night. I want to stay an extra night. But doesn't run those departments. He doesn't run the commercial element of the football club. He doesn't dictate the budgets that the club has. He doesn't sit down with sponsors. He doesn't even get involved in the large part of the nitty-gritty detail of a transfer. Doesn't do the scouting, by and large. That is done by a scouting department, and it is run that way. He'll have a say and an input and have conversations, of course. But the commercial side of things, the budgeting side of things, expanding the stadium, he's not sitting there with the architects instead of the Cronkies, instead of the CEOs. He's not the guy. Of course, they'll keep the manager of the first team abreast, because he isn't just the manager of the first team. He's the public face from a leadership perspective of the football club. But the idea that Mikel Arteta runs all these things right down to the fans being served up cold pizza is absolutely bonkers. It's a bonkers take. And I get Yardman as an individual doesn't like Arteta, doesn't respect Arteta. You can't respect him if you're pushing this nonsense. You can say, I respect him. Maybe as a man, if you saw him in the street, he'd be cordial. But doesn't like him, doesn't respect him, doesn't want him as his manager. It has to be a certain level of hate. It has to be a certain level of disdain to blame Mikel Arteta for that. If I look at Manchester United, we've had some awful managerial appointments in the last 13 years. At the same time, that's coincided with the food hygiene levels being low, the stadium has started to crumble, multiple things wrong with this club. The idea the manager has ever been responsible for all of those things is crazy. And by the way, we gave, up until Amorim, so much control and power to our previous 3 or 4 appointments as we tried to, especially under the Woodward era, as we tried to replicate the Fergie situation where he ran the club. But even then, those managers weren't responsible for what happened with the food. They weren't going around, like Gordon Ramsay's kitchen nightmares. They weren't going around the stadium on a match day when they're preparing their team, ensuring that all the work surfaces were clean, that all the fridges were cleaned out, that all the food was in date. He's not sitting there on the pass going, right, guys, I know I've got to get the team warmed up and ready, but before you start serving these people their fried chicken and chips, before you start giving those pies out, I want to look at them. Before they go out, they've got to go through the pass, and I've got to check they're of the right standard. I've got to check the steak is tender enough, but also warm enough. I also need to put a thermometer in the beer. And managers ain't doing this. They're not doing it. It is absolutely crazy. Bonkers. Radio rental. But why? Why is there this much disdain for Mikel Arteta from some Arsenal fans? Why do they dislike the man so much? I can't quite put my finger on it. I don't, to a point now where people say trophies are all that matter. Well, that wasn't true because you wanted Wenger gone when he was still winning UFA Cups. A lot of the people that you see as Arteta out, as the staunch ones, they were there on the marches and the protests to get a manager out that won 3 FA Cups in his last 4 or 5 years at the club. So trophies aren't all that matter. Clearly, you want to be in title races. You want to be good enough to win the biggest trophies in the world. But the hatred that he gets, where people would push this. And I've said this for a while now, that if Mikel Arteta wins the Premier League this year, and you can bookmark this, you can timestamp this, you can click it. You can clip it, sorry. There will be people that will push this notion. Absolutely guarantee this to you. I believe this to be, I think I can guarantee it. It will go to, oh, look, we did good. We deserved it. Well done. But it's 1 in 6 years. He's been here since 2019. It's 2026. It's 5.5, 6 years. Sorry, 6.5, 7 years. We need more. I'm not satisfied. The goalpost, Yardman may not do it individually. Maybe he'll hold his hands up and say, I was always wrong. He was good enough. Because if you actually listen to a lot of the Arteta outers, they're starting to change. They're starting to say, well, I was right in the seasons that I predicted we wouldn't win the league because we didn't win the league. Just because I'm wrong this season doesn't mean I was wrong in those seasons. But yet, if you go back and listen to what they said, they didn't say Arsenal and/or Arteta are not good enough to win the Premier League this year. Listen to them long enough. They say he isn't good enough to ever win the league. He's not of that standard. So you are still wrong, but they won't want to admit it. The can will get kicked down the road. The goalpost will most certainly be moved. And I, to a degree, understand rivals doing this. I get why you, a United fan, Chelsea, Spurs especially, and all the other, I get why we do this. The lies told about Sir Alex Ferguson, and he's been retired for 12 years. The lies told his entire career, I get it. You don't like your rivals. You always want to shit on them. Makes sense. I understand it. I don't get this from Arsenal fans. And even if Arteta now achieves the success they crave, they will find a way to play it down. Oh, Liverpool overspent and the manager got it wrong and City fell off. They'll put some of it. You can clip this all up. They will put some of it on City not being as good as they were and Liverpool falling off. And it will be, yeah, look, but if this was a peak Pep team and if Liverpool didn't fall off, I don't think he'd have done it. They will play it down every single which way. Why do I believe this? Because they're spreading a lie that he controls the food kiosk on a match day. They're spreading lies like this, that he's the reason the pizzas are cold. The reason the pizzas are cold. Listen, Yardman, I don't know him personally. No personal issue with the man whatsoever. Very well. I'd love to interview him. I'd love to sit down and just... Yes, I'd ask questions and I'd probe, but I just want to listen and listen and listen. I need to understand this more because I don't get it, Yardman. Why do you hate Arteta so much? Hit that like button, please, people. Make sure you're subscribing to the channel. And we'll see you all again soon. Peace.